This is the video for Thursday, October 22nd for 11th grade English. We are still looking at the American Revolution. Our topic today is war. And we're going to look at the assessment, the project that I'm assigning. I'm asking everybody to make their choices of their song today, if they haven't already made them. And then I'm going to spend a little bit of time showing you what it is that you have to do. The stem for today is the Americans were outgunned and outmanned. So we are trying to capture that idea of the actual war, the battles. And we're going to do that using the documentary Liberty and then one song from Hamilton before I head into my model. So we'll click here for the slides. There's no Nearpod today, it's just the slideshow because hopefully you'll begin working on your own and that will carry us through next week. So, the war. By 1780, things were not going so well in the war. The Americans were hanging on. The British had been repelled in the New England and Middle Colonies area, but then they went to Charleston and captured the South. And there was this real loose thread keeping the American cause together. Then the betrayal of Benedict Arnold, one of Washington's most trusted advisors, was a real death knell in so many ways for the Americans because it represented something bigger, that he, Benedict Arnold, didn't believe the Americans could win the war and that the British would win. So we're going to look at a little bit of the clips there just to help ground you in the history before we look at Hamilton. I'm using the PBS Liberty mini-series. We're going to watch minutes 4 to 7.5 at the moment here.
December 1779. The war in America has been going on for 5 years and is at a stalemate. For England, it has expanded into a world war with her archenemy France. British colonies around the world are under attack, and France seems poised to invade England itself. The American war has become a costly sideshow. The British are growing desperate. General Henry Clinton sets sail from New York. He leaves behind a garrison of troops to tie down Washington's army. His destination is Charleston, South Carolina, the commercial and political center of the American Lower South.
The decision to go south was really a last attempt. They'd failed in New England, they'd failed in the middle colonies, as they regarded them, and where else could they go? The answer was that they could attempt to go south, that they could pacify the entire South, and then use that as a springboard from which they could reconquer the rest of the colonies.
Clinton lays siege to Charleston. The entire southern division of the American Army defends the city valiantly for 6 weeks. But in May, Charleston falls to the British. 16-year-old Eliza Wilkinson keeps a diary recording the events of the day.
A day of sorrow. I have seen my countrymen bound and dragged away. So many young men have died in her defense. Now America must fall. We are entirely at the mercy of the British soldiers. Even women are being sent to the prison ships. Do the Britons think that they'll conquer America this way? We may be led, but we'll never be driven.
The entire Southern Army is captured. Most of South Carolina falls into British hands. Georgia has been pacified, and North Carolina will soon follow. A delighted General Clinton reports back to London.
With greatest pleasure, I report to your lordship that inhabitants from every quarter rush to declare their allegiance to the king. I may venture to assert that there are few men in South Carolina who are not either in arms with us or our prisoners.
So there you have it. That's the base for where we are right now in the American Revolution and the war. Is there's this really decisive victory in the South from the British, and the Americans are losing a little bit of hope. But then I'm going to play you another couple clips here about George Washington to set up where their best hope was lying at the time in the French.
Whom, in the 6th year of the war, never lost faith, at least publicly, and that's what counted. Washington understood this was not a military conflict in the conventional, certainly the old world sense. This was ultimately a test of political endurance. And while he, by temperament and inclination, would prefer to play the part of the lion, he learned to play the fox brilliantly. He only fought 9 battles in the Revolution, of which he only won 3. His genius was in keeping the cause alive, in keeping the army, such as it was, together. It was that endurance that made him, even at the time, a legend.
Washington has one great hope: his alliance with the French. King Louis's money is sustaining the war effort, and France is now America's principal source of military supplies. Muskets, gunpowder, even uniforms. The American army is flooded with idealistic foreign volunteers, many of them noblemen. The German Baron Wilhelm von Steuben, the Polish Colonel Tadeusz Kosciuszko, Count Casimir Pulaski. The most famous of them is a young, enthusiastic, and very well-connected French aristocrat named Marie-Joseph Paul Yves Roch Gilbert du Motier. Americans know him as the Marquis de Lafayette.
So you have this really important alliance between America and France that's going to set the seeds for victory in the end. And the Marquis de Lafayette is one of the more important, if not the most important, Frenchmen to the American cause. He loves the idea of liberty. He loves this fledgling nation. And he becomes enamored with the people. He becomes really good friends with Alexander Hamilton and later Thomas Jefferson. And so in this song we're about to read from Hamilton and listen to, it's about the Marquis de Lafayette and how he was able to lead those forces, which French forces came over to help the Americans in some decisive battles, including one at Yorktown. So reading and listening to the song, I want you to be able to explain who the Marquis de Lafayette was, what country he represented, and why that country's involvement was so important, and also explaining the prologue at the beginning. I have to record a new one. Here's the lyricism there, and it's so incredible because of the hip-hop, the rap in it, the quickness of Daveed Diggs rapping. But you get these wonderful lines: I'm taking this horse by the reins, making redcoats redder with blood stains. The redcoats are the British. I go to France for more funds and I come back with more guns. And that's exactly what the Marquis did. He left America, went back, continued to persuade the French to continue supporting the American cause, and returned to command some troops himself. And then he says, we can end this war at Yorktown, cut them off at sea. Yorktown will become the decisive battle of the American Revolution. So this is not an option for you to do, although, I'm not against it. It's just that it's not one of the ones I selected. I want to take a moment to look at the assignment and show you how you would go about annotating a song like this to reveal your knowledge of the history. I'm going to use the Schuyler Sisters, what we did yesterday. We're not going to watch it again. We saw it yesterday. But I'm going to pull up those lyrics, and I'm going to show you what that would look like if this is the song that you picked. And if not, how this is a model for what to do. So what are you doing for your assignment? Let's read it. First, you're understanding theme, writing 2 to 3 sentences at the very beginning explaining the style of the song. What does it reveal about the character singing or the nature of its subject? And you can't really do that yet. I haven't given you the video that will launch us into that space. And so instead, I want you to focus on number 2 today. Pick 3 to 5 places in the song that refer to something real from history. Highlight those moments. In the white space next to each moment, write 3 sentences with a summary of the illusion. What happened? Who was involved? When was this? Where was it? So I'm giving you the 4 questions that I want you to answer in your small summary. And I'll show you what that looks like. First, let's find 3 to 5 moments from the song that connect to the history. I've got some in mind, so I'll take you to those. Here, very first thing that happens is when, towards the end here, Angelica says, I've been reading Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Men say that I'm intense or I'm insane. You want a revolution? I want a revelation. So listen to my declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'm going to compel him to include women in the sequel. I'm going to highlight this. So, summary. This is where I'll write my paragraph. And I'm going to do this 3 to 5 times for my project. What happened? When was this? Who was this? When? And where was this? This is a reference to the Declaration of Independence. I'm going to quickly establish some of the other pieces by using a comma, which was the founding document drafted and signed in the summer of 1776. Thomas Jefferson wrote the first draft, and it was edited by his committee, including members such as Benjamin Franklin and John Adams. So I've got the who, right? And I've got the when. Now, where was this? Let's go ahead and say the committee presented it to the Continental Congress, who approved it and unanimously voted it into being Philadelphia. So I'm only missing one thing, and it's the what happened. What happened is going to be with a document a little harder to answer, but I'll say the document made waves and certified that the Americans were truly seeking to form their own nation. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences. I'm going to do that 2 more times. One of my paragraphs needs to be a primary source like this. So I've already finished my primary source one, and that means the next moment I pick can be a little more general. I can say something about Common Sense by Thomas Paine. I can point out here, Daddy wants to go to war. What war are we talking about? But I'll do it 3 more times, up to 5 times. You can do the minimum, it's fine. I just wanted to create some space for people who had more to say.